Hello, everyone, and welcome to Murfreesboro Storytellers. We invite you to join us for this program looking at the community of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. And today we're in contact with Shacklett's photography, Bill Shacklett and his sister, Gloria Christy. Bill and Gloria, welcome.
Thank you, John. So glad to be here.
Thank you.
Shacklett family has been very much a part of this community over the years, and we appreciate you joining us to talk about history and preserving history as a photographer, and Gloria and other activities you've been involved in with Cannonsburg and everything else. So how's it been? Have you enjoyed your life?
To say the least, it's been phenomenal. It really has. My background's in education. The first part, I guess, when you might say my first quarter of my life, I worked in education, but you know, I never got the teacher out of me, right, Bill?
No, you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the teacher.
So this particular experience here at my own family's business has been such a blessing and has been fulfilling to be able to do everything that I feel led to do, which is right in the context of this business. Yes.
And Bill is an excellent photographer. You certainly helped to preserve the history of our community right in the footsteps of your father.
That's exactly right, John. You got it right. If it hadn't been the legacy that our dad and mom left us, the thing they instilled in us from a very young age was the fact that we live in a very special place. And as photographers, we have an opportunity to record that and to be able to tell that story to generations that we may not get a chance to see. And because they were doing it, recording those images and saving those images that had been recorded before their lives. And it's just an important part, because it's like the old saying, you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been.
Exactly.
And the images give us a great opportunity to share our stories with the folks that are around us. And we have as a community, we have a very special story to tell.
And the Shacklett family has been such an integral part of this community. I guess your uncle, Dr. William Shacklett, was a physician for many years. It was my doctor. We used to kid him. We used to kid him being called Three-Shot Shacklett.
Oh yeah.
And he could take care of you with 3 shots. I blew the system one time. I took 4 shots before I could get right.
Oh boy.
And I guess your grandmother headed the Council of Social Agencies here, which is a very important part of the community.
That's right, John. She was actually the first, what we would call a welfare lady. She was recognizing those people in the community that had special needs. And I promise you, she was a right at 4, maybe 5 foot tall. But I tell you, she could read people really easy. And if you needed help, she'd find some way to bring those resources to help you. But if you were trying to take advantage of the system, she would stand up to you and call you to account to your responsibilities that you were supposed to do, that you're part in that, in meeting your needs. And just a very special legacy between her and my granddaddy and other folks in our family. Uncle Bill still has a legacy. We still run into people that say, he meant a lot to them. He practiced for over 50 years as a general practitioner. And as far as I know, I think he was one of the last physicians in town that were doing house calls. If he called him,
that's correct.
He would come to your home. And imagine that these days, I don't think that would be very practical, but he really took his calling of being a physician very seriously.
All the way from house calls till today, we're beginning to get into computer calls with the doctors.
Yeah, internet and that's true. That's true. It's interesting. We've kind of come full circle in some sense. Yeah.
Gloria, you mentioned you're an educator by training, and you taught schools for a number of years.
Yes, I did. I taught kindergarten and first grade, and was fortunate, John, and recognize his name. I was actually hired by Baxter Hobgood. I worked for him 4 years in the central office, and then it was kind of funny I guess it would have been August of 71. Even though I had worked there for 4 years, he still didn't have a job for me. I didn't quite understand how you got hired and all of that. But eventually he did hire me, and I did 2 years of first grade and 3 years of kindergarten. And he was just a wonderful man. And then I came back after going away for a while, and came back and taught another couple of years at Hobgood School. So I always just cherish those times, and I cherish those moments with Mr. Hobgood. You remember him. He was just such an incredible man and such an incredible inspiration for so many here in our community. He was quite a visionary too, John. I think you can identify with that.
Right.
And he was one of those remarkable men who could see far into the future, and he saw into you. He planted what he thought were, and encouraged you to reach your potential. Would you agree with that?
I agree, very definitely. Yeah, Baxter Hobgood was my high school principal, and I had the privilege of serving on the board when he was superintendent of schools. And Mrs. Hobgood was my Latin teacher.
Yes.
So the Hobgoods are very special to me.
Oh yeah, they really were.
About as we talk about remembering and history in our community, it's those people that potential difference in people's lives. You know, you recall places, but the people that really changed the trajectory of so many people's lives, and we all had them around us in this little big community in the South. We had inspiring people around us that poured into us perspective and vision and responsibility at a very young age. And I don't know that as we were going through it, we realized that was happening, but reflection, as you look at it in the rearview mirror, you realize how important those people were to us.
Well,
Bill,
I
tell
remember.
I'm sorry, Gloria, go ahead.
I was just going to comment too that another person that was quite influential in our community in a national and got national recognition was Ruth Bowden with Classroom on Wheels. You remember how she just worked so hard for children, and I think we all were benefactors of her philosophy. Although her name's not mentioned much, she and people like Baxter Hobgood and all those in those early days in Murfreesboro City Schools, they just set the pace for everything. And I think that I don't want to forget people like Mr. Westbrooks. They were the other folks that just set us on a good path, John, don't you think? I mean, they really did.
I agree. Were you about to say something, Bill?
Well, no, just amen.
Amen. Okay.
I certainly agree that those people that, you know, and like I say, that meant a whole lot to me as I was growing up. Coaches and teachers. Honestly, if I hadn't been a photographer, I think I would have been a teacher. I really enjoy that whole process and certainly value the teaching profession and what that means in touching and impacting young people's lives. Because like I say, because I thought that was what was done for me as a young person. There were people that came alongside, saw me on the street or saw me involved in something and encouraged me, said, you know, when you were walking along the street and trying to figure out, you know, as a young adult, what you wanted to be and what you wanted to do. And then to have people like Mr. Hopgood, like Mr. Westbrooks.
Yes, indeed.
Ben Hall McFarland Sr., that were good friends with Dad, are just so many people that just came alongside us and encouraged us to community service, encouraged us not only in our thinking, but in our doing. And there were a lot of people like that I can't imagine. You know, I was kind of worried there for a while, John, when I was going through the 60s and 70s, that at some point in time, my generation was going to have the reins and be making decisions for our community. And I was kind of worried about that.
Oh, no.
But then all of a sudden, you know, you wake up and then you're sitting in the seats of people that you revered.
Sure. Yeah. Bill, tell me about your experience as a photographer. What are some of the memorable events that you photographed?
Well, the neat thing about it is you get to share the special times in people's lives. Some of them, they're joyous times. They're times of certainly just the highest highs. But there are times when, you know, you're involved in circumstances or situations that are tragedies. And we do a lot of photo restoration as well. So we we're helping people save their memories as well. I can remember one time that, at special events, we used to come do the chamber banquets, the annual banquets that were over at MTSU and in the student union building there. Every year as a young guy, I'd go over there and sit on the floor sometimes trying to find a place to be out of everybody's way where I could photograph everybody. And all the folks, the pillars of our community, would be gathered there to recognize those people in the business community. And when they made their presentations, then I'd take their picture. And I still remember as a young person just thinking, wow, this is really special. That they were getting recognized for the work that they were doing, for their businesses, for their commitment to the community. And I don't know, it's just pouring something into me, like I say, just being in that environment. In fact, you might have been the MC at many of those.
May have been years ago, yeah.
But John, you've been quite the inspiration for me and so many.
Absolutely.
As far as what community service means, but then there's other times, like I say, I still remember a time where there was a family, a couple of brothers that had passed, actually drowned, and we got a call from Woodbury, and the funeral home up there, very poor folks. They were actually lived in Spring Valley, and he wanted me to come up and take pictures for them. And it was just really a sad thing, but the time to touch people, to be there in those times. And then they were so appreciative to have the flowers photographed for them. We all just kind of donated it for them, to them. So it gave them an opportunity to remember something. It wasn't just the tragedy, but the lives of these two young boys. We've recorded a lot of special events in our community. If you get a chance and you're in the new judicial building, you can see the large picture that is of the courthouse cupola. That has a lot of individual pictures that Dad or I have taken over the years of the events of our community and the people of our community, the Sheriff's Department, the County Commission, events of dedications of buildings, all kinds of different things that you kind of get a grasp of. There's been a lot to happen in our community that has been real special, and I think part of what our responsibility is, not just to our own generation, but to generations to come, is to tell those stories and remind each other of how special a place we live in.
That mural in the judicial building is very special. I always enjoy seeing it.
Well, it is like I say, all of the images. I think there's 44,000 images there, and it's
my word.
Yeah, there's some. We had to duplicate them because they were. When I went back and looked at all of the images, it was quite a fellow that I'd actually had in Little League was a project coordinator, one of the coordinators for the architect of the building, and he came up with the idea. And then he said, "I bet Coach Shacklett could help us with this," and he brought us into it, and we all just kind of just fell in love with the idea. Yeah. And first time something like that has been done kind of uniquely in the community. So you can stand away from it and see the cupola, but when you get up close, you'll see that it's made up of a bunch of little small pictures, and those are the people that have shaped our community. Mm-hmm. And so I encourage people that hadn't had a chance to see that to go see it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Gloria, you've been very instrumental in developing Cannonsburg and providing inspiration and control there.
Well, actually, in that era of my life, I was working with Oakland's Mansion. I was education director there after I guess quit teaching in 1982, 83. I started as education director, and I just really discovered in Dad's files all of these historic images, and so I began putting together some of those at Uncle Dave Macon Days, and that was actually the first. In fact, that was another person who really influenced my life was Jesse Messick, which is such an incredible man. And so having had all those files, and Bill, I think, printed up most of the ones for display. We put them on display in the courthouse first at Uncle Dave Macon Days, and then when we moved to Cannonsburg in 1989, we put them down there, and then it just kind of became an integral part of our history. And now I'm even more dedicated, John, to saving the history of this area, particularly rural life of Middle Tennessee and the culture. It was unique. The music was unique. The story is unique. And on and on about that. We're all my life, and I can literally my life of 35 years with Uncle Dave Making Days has taught me so much about the history of this area, and not only how special the roots music it was in what actually happened in our area that influenced Nashville and had such a profound effect on American popular music. So that story still has to be told. It is still it hasn't, I still think it's a huge economic, could have some huge economic impact on our community if we began to define what that is and get those parameters. And we are working towards that through our work with Uncle Dave Making Days. And even though we're kind of been going through this, the pandemic has been good because for us to reevaluate what we're doing and in more ways than one. But I think it's going to be a huge attraction for our community as we move into the next 10 to 15 20 years to identify what this story was all about and keeping our culture and because really what draws people here are those wonderful vistas that we have, those farmlands, and although some of that's gone, but the story is there, and it's still, I think, an important part of what we need to save. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. We've got something precious, and we need to keep it together and value it and treasure it and bring it forward to the next generation.
35 years. I didn't realize it'd been that long.
Yeah, 35 years.
You've had some memorable entertainers there from time to time.
Yes, we do. We have always had honored, starting out with Roy Acuff was our very first Heritage Award winner, and we've had Ralph Stanley. We've had many names over and over. In fact, this weekend we are going to be honoring, we'll be celebrating with the Steel Drivers for our 2015 Trailblazer Awards. So there, yeah, the names go on and on. Marty Stewart, Bill Monroe, Grandpa Jones. I know I was walking through the corridor of the Grand Ole Opry not too long ago before the pandemic, and on the first 2 or 3 walls of the Grand Ole Opry, their honorees they've been our Heritage Award winner. I thought, oh my gosh. Yes, we've kind of been a silent kind of, I guess we've been so busy doing the festival and honoring and sharing. We just really we haven't taken a look at actually what that work is. And these last couple of years, since we've not really done the festival, we've had an opportunity to reflect and look at that phenomenal experience for the last actually Uncle Dave Making Days is 43 years. I just did it 35. So there were, but there's a lot there, and we just need to cherish it and talk about phenomenal people that made this happen for all these years too. But such talent, I can't say enough about the talent that's come forward in 43 years.
We did a program on this program with Uncle Dave Macon's grandson, which is very interesting.
I mean, yeah, Michael.
Yeah. Bill, let's talk about your service on the Murfreesboro City Council.
Well, it's been really interesting and challenging at times, but you look at the broad swath of public service, and I think you've got to say it's positive. I think anybody that's ever offered themselves to public service would, in reflection, if not in the midst of the fire, said that it's been a positive experience for them. I remember back when John Pittard passed, that was how I started. I'd actually been an election official, helped run elections for about 30 years. And then when John passed, the offer was to put your name in to fill out his an expired term.
Mhm.
Raleigh Holden, in fact, encouraged me. I was over there one morning. He said, well, you ought to put your name in for it. And oddly, I had never considered running for public office, never thought about it. And I just couldn't lay that down. And so I ended up putting my name in. They ended up not filling out his term, but the next election cycle came around, and people were encouraging me to run again. And that was when Tommy Bragg and Doug Young ran at the same time, the first time I did in 2002. And we were fortunate enough to get the one thing that I think I really appreciate it is serving on council is the fact that you can help people. I don't have the right answers, but I can ask. Many times I know who to ask the questions of, and that's been helpful. To be able to know who to ask the questions of, and we have so many people that serve our community, first responders and staff at the city, that work, fire and police, that work on a daily basis to do what is right for our citizens. And from the outside, sometimes you miss that. You don't, we only about the bad things that happen or the things that are challenging and frustrating. But on the inside, you see all the people that labor hour by hour, day by day, just doing the right thing and trying to find the right thing to do. And they spend their whole lives, often many careers, are spent just serving the public and trying to make our city a very special place to live. And I guess that you get to see that from the inside. You get to see people's heart as they serve our community. And I feel very fortunate to have been able to be a part of it as long as I have.
You make a real good point that many times as a public office holder, you may not be able to be the one to get it done, but you can find the right person to help someone get what they need.
Right. And I think, that because often when people don't have an answer or aren't directed to someone that can resolve the problem for them, they get frustrated. And then all of a sudden, government isn't a helper, government is an adversary. And really what we are, everybody in our public service would admit, we're partners with folks. Some of my best ideas, I told somebody in the midst of a campaign one time, my best ideas don't come from me. My best ideas come from the public. Somebody says, well, why don't y'all do that? Or don't we need a light there? Or, an extra lane, so-and-so. Well, and then you bring that to the delivery process and good things happen, so many times. In fact, I was at a TML, or Tennessee Municipal League. This is a quick story. And a guy, this is just after I first started serving, and he said, why is it Murfreesboro always has something going on? Y'all seem like y'all are always in the midst of doing something, or progressive, or really moving to have something. So why are y'all always getting something good? And I said, well, that was at the end of the day. And I said, let me think about that. And we were going to have breakfast. Next morning, I said, I think I've got the answer for you. It's the culture. It's our people. Don't worry when somebody comes to somebody with something they want to do, or proposed activity, or something that the community needs. People don't just normally say, well, that's your idea, or start picking holes in it. People start trying to find a way to help people realize their dreams and realize their vision, because they realize tomorrow I may need you to help me with my dream. And that has happened. That culture in Murfreesboro is just part of who we are as a community. Good things happen when good people apply all of their efforts and concerns towards an issue, and it may not be your idea or my idea, but somewhere between us might be the right thing to do, and the opportunity that we need to claim. And I think we've been very fortunate over the years that we've had a community that's just part of the way we do things.
Right. Bill, what are some of the challenges you see for Murfreesboro with all of our growth and development?
Put your finger right on it. It's the challenge of growth. And that it be responsible, that we become what we want to become. And part of that is folks that are able to listen to each other. And I think that's something that I hope we have an opportunity to change that. So often in the public debate at the state and federal level, people stop each other. They don't communicate. They don't know how to responsibly and respectfully dialogue with each other. But I hope with our neighbors and our friends, people that know us, that do business with us, that see each other at church and on the ball fields, we respect each other and appreciate each other and value each other's place in the process. And if we can learn to communicate and respectfully dialogue with each other, I don't care what happens tomorrow in our community, we'll find a way to solve the problems and address the future in an optimistic way, and not be discouraged by the future. Because the great thing is, like I was talking to somebody the other day, John, you know, you remember when we used to have to go to Nashville to get to go shopping, or we had to go to Nashville
Right.
to go to a restaurant. But now there's just about all of those opportunities are here in Murfreesboro, and that's part of the growth.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Gloria, what do you see for challenges for you for the future? What are you involved in besides Uncle Dave making days?
Well, I guess my main focus right now is, believe it or not, I'm homeschooling my grandson. So that takes up a lot of my time. But that's what, but it's also given me an insight into another generation, and more, he has taught me more, way more than I have taught him. And I just think it's an important moment in my life. And I think that another thing that the last few years have taught me is how very, very special my family is. And Dad and Mom, we were everything to them. And Bill, you can say that. I mean, you might say we were spoiled rotten, but I guess, you know, the family thought we were. Let me put it that way. Yeah, there was a moment when Uncle Bill and Aunt Minerva and all of them didn't want to take care of us because they said we were too rowdy. But well, I don't know what was wrong with that.
Isn't it, John?
They said we had so much fun growing up, which is just not that was the other thing, you know, it was kind of a natural thing for us to go in business together, right, Bill? I mean, we were playmates all the time. We had clubhouses and games and all things. We did nothing but
Had that on my desk. I just saw it.
Oh my gosh, we've had so much fun. I just have to tell you, this has been, if you talk about I've had a wonderful life. I've gotten to work with my family. I know everybody thinks that's crazy, but we get to work through things, and if it's challenges, that's the one thing I think that we've always learned to talk to each other. We've never been short of, we don't keep things undercover too often, do we, Bill? I mean, that's just
Not hard opinion in the Shacklett family.
Well, Bill and Gloria, thank you very much for your contribution to our community and for the wonderful Shacklett family. Bill Shacklett, Gloria Christy, thank you for joining us on Storytellers.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.